so much to Usha for returning to the Saatchi chair, but under the guise of our Artist Conversation series. Gordon Froud, shout out to Gordon from the Department of Visual Art, curated the exhibition in February of the Chancellor Medal and Dignitas Award winners. So our series is an honoring and a showcasing of those artists who have chosen to participate with us. And we open with Usha, whose work I think we are all well familiar with, and who was awarded the Dignitas Award last year, 2021.
Yeah, last year.
Last year. Years run together. I would love to just hand it over to Usha. And she has a PowerPoint that she'd like to share and spin off against, and there will be a video as well, which we have all tested.
Thank you, Irene, and
thank
you, Gordon and Brenda, for inviting me to this platform. Yeah, it's as an alumni of UJ, it's always my pleasure to give back in some way and also to just engage. So thank you. I am going to screen share. Can you see my screen? Irene, if you can just confirm.
Yes, we can see your screen. It's full size.
Great. So I try to kind of think about how to do this, and I just put a whole lot of images together, and I thought what I'd show is a trajectory of materials. And I identified 3 kind of key objects or materials that I've been working with, and just kind of look at how I've started using them and where they're at now. It's not necessarily chronological, but it's more kind of thematic. So I'm going to run through them quite quickly because I think it's more important for you to see images and they kind of speak for themselves. And then if you want more information about specific works or something, we can always talk about that after. And then I have a short video that I'd like to show you at the end. It's 8 minutes, which explains the Burning Man project. So this is an early work from 2012 on a body of work which I think was quite a shifting moment in my practice. Brenda's written about this body of work. It's called Venus at Home. But in this show, I worked with a lot of domestic objects, including brooms. So this was a piece called Triangle, which just used brooms that were donated by people. So they're all used and they have their own kind of history. So is this one called Family. This work has been shown also several times since, and the brooms have deteriorated slightly, but I love that about them, that they continue to hold their usedness, I guess. And then later, I started cutting up the broom handles and then joining them again. So in a way, kind of dismembering and remembering. And what I like about them, well, what happened was I would go around looking for used brooms. I was going through dumping sites, recycling places. I've exhausted all my neighbors and friends. And then I started buying some new brooms as well because I needed more. But what's nice is that there's a tonal variation in the wood, which I started playing with. This is another piece called The Conference of the Brooms. And it's almost jewelry-like, I guess. This is a large piece that was shown on a show called Vessel of the Fish, which was in Rotterdam. This is one of the shows I couldn't go to. Excuse me. It was curated by Tumelo Mosaka, and it was shown at Witte de With, which is now the Melly Institute. This is an early work where I cut up the fibers of the broom, tiny little hairs, and then use the tweezer and glue to make this tiny little drawing. Excuse me, I have a terrible cough. This was a project that was coincided with the then Joburg Art Fair. And on the top of the EPSA building, for a week, 4 artist videos were shown on a loop. And I made a work called Sweep. And it's an animation, and this is a hand-drawn animation, which I will play for you. It's got no sound, so you can hear my coughing in the background. It was interesting that at the time, there was a municipal strike, so the city was a mess. So the timing of it was seemed quite fitting that the city needed cleaning up. And then I started using the heads of the brooms. So this is a sculptural piece. It's called Her Latent Power Lies Dormant. And she is kind of figurative, I guess. And in the making of this kind of work, I quite enjoyed the materiality of these brooms and how they look and feel from both sides. And then I made this one called Home, and I called it a nest. And this was on a show called Transgressing Power at Smack Gallery in Rosebank. And when I was installing this piece, I had a feeling of expanding the work into a full installation. And a year later, I got an opportunity to be part of Kentridge's season 6 at the Center for Less Good Idea. And when he invited me to participate, the theme for that season was around Johannesburg and labor. And so I immediately thought of this work that I had the vision of expanding. And after I proposed it, they were very excited. And this is what I made. I made, I don't know, 60 something of these nests. And we put them all up. They were shown at the Center for Less Good Idea. A segment of it was shown in Rotterdam. A segment of it was shown in Cape Town at my show last year. It was also shown as part of the Klein Karoo Festival digitally. But the thing about this installation is that when you arrive into the room, firstly, I wanted an immersive experience, which I think it was quite successful in doing so, but also that there was a sensory element to it in that you could smell the grass. So there was this visual side, but also the smell, which was very powerful. So those were the brooms. And then I wanted to speak a little bit about irons. This piece is also from that show on Venus at Home from 2012. Oh, just go back. And I physically stitched these irons together. I've casted cement, irons in cement, and I've purposely made them not full. And I quite like the fact that they are imperfect, falling apart. There's a few in this series. I've just shown 2. I've made other work where I've casted the base because their markings are quite beautiful. Irene, it says people are waiting in the lobby.
Yes, I'm admitting them as everyone.
Okay, thank you. There's another one from that series. So this is a whole block of cement. These are lithos, where the motif of the iron, I guess, is used in kind of imagery. So that's a feather duster that she has on top. It's another one. On the Rotterdam show, I made a creature of habit with the iron in the center there. And I'm on a group show in Wolfsburg in Germany later this year. And I'll be showing a few of these creatures. And they have a low budget for logistics. So what I've done is I've made the joins and elbows with the hinge. So I've made 4 of these creatures which actually fold up into one little suitcase. And then they can unfold to exhibit. This work is called Cow's Head. It's quite an early piece, 2009. It references Picasso's Bull's Head. This one is made from the assemblage of an old used iron and a hanger. And then subsequent to that, a few years later, for the Cape Town Art Fair, I made a whole herd of cow's heads. This piece was also shown in Germany, in Dresden, on a show called Womanism. I think this is the piece that was shown on the UJ show. So this red material is an component that is found inside the iron, the base of the iron. And when I work with these irons, I strip them down completely. And then I've been keeping all of these. So a whole series of works have come from this material, which I enjoy very much. That's another piece with the ironing bases. The paint that is used on this one is automotive paint, which I call magical paint, because when you look at it from different angles, it's different colors. So from a certain angle, they look a bit greeny, purpley. From other angles, they look a bit blue. So it's magic. Then I started making some wings out of these irons, and I quite like the irony of the fact that they're quite heavy and that they can't actually fly. So it's the aspiration of freedom, but in reality they'll never move, I guess. Another one. And then, of course, I got the commission to do something at the Radisson Red Hotel. And so I made these huge 5-meter wings, which have been very popular. I'm sorry, guys, this is just terrible. What's great about this as a public artwork is that it is interactive, and all these influencers keep tagging me with their picture of themselves with my wings. These are also ironing bases, and I made a series called Trophy Wives. I mean, the reference to vaginas are quite obvious in my work, sometimes more overt and sometimes more subtle. Then I made a series of works with serving trays and called them the Servitude series. And yeah, they also cut and folded and joined together through folding. I added this in. These are mosaics because there's such a strong kind of overlap with public artwork. And I was asked to make mosaics for public toilets in N Street in Johannesburg for male and female. So I wanted to represent the female as like a young, strong kind of urban woman. And I wanted to represent the male as a young father, because I think we have such social problems in South Africa with the lack of father figures, or fathers actually. Generations of people growing up without their fathers. So I wanted to create a positive image for both. And then there's the peg. This piece was shown on a group show called Black Luminosity in Stellenbosch, curated by Kotelwa Mashika. And these are made from frames that have been reclaimed. These are typical of my work, made with wooden pegs. This one's called Twisted Lobe. This is an earlier piece where I pressed the peg into ink and kind of printed with it. This is quite a large work. I just wanted to show the diversity of how I've used this material. This is a video piece that is a stop frame where the pegs get slowly pinned onto the body, and then after all the pegs are on the body, they get taken away one at a time, leaving a scar. It's about a 5-minute video, I think, 5 and a bit. Another peg work. Another peg work called Vulva Pudding. This piece was shown on the show at UJ. It's got a line of red plastic pegs inside. Oh, and now I want to show you the video. Just to talk about it a bit. Let me stop screen sharing so you can see me. This is a piece that I'm making for Burning Man. It's going to be shown this year in Nevada. And it's a massive piece that involves so many different elements. The video explains it quite well. It's about 8 minutes long. And I think it will just give you a sense of the scale and the scope of the project. Can you see Aikido documentary? Very interesting.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay.
If you press play, it's widescreen.
Okay, there we go. We have an African proverb that says it takes a village to raise a child. This project, which is our baby, has really taken a village to realize it.
It was very important that we as Africans are represented globally. And one of the things that I'd noticed being at Burning Man is that there's very little African representation, both in terms of participants, but also in terms of art. And our art is unique, it is vibrant. This resurrection of the clothes peg represents, a lot.
I was inspired by my practice as an artist, where I work with a number of domestic objects. And one of the objects I work with is a wooden peg. And a wooden peg is a little object. It's an unassuming object. We don't pay much attention to this. And because I work with this, I want to bring attention to it. It is a symbol of female labor, female kind of function of holding together. So what I did is I proposed a work that magnifies this little peg. And then I said, I also wanted to show the power of woman when she is given so little. And if you look at a wooden peg, it has two parts that holds together. So what if I remove one part? What if I make her less, but still show that she's powerful?
It's mind-boggling to see the sheer scale of the project and the number of people that are working on the different aspects of it. It certainly is an indigenous project where we are using local labor, local resources, local energy to put together the resurrection of the clothes peg.
From the beginning, we had engineers, we had Hubo Studios, partnership with architect Asher Marcus. We have Project Aikido, which is the name of our main project, which is headed by Nana Sao, whose vision it was to bring an artwork from the African continent because there hasn't been to date. We have the whole team here at Dorman Long. Behind the scenes, there are people in marketing, there are people in animation. We've made 8 animation NFTs out of this work. We've had fundraisers to supplement the funding required. You can understand the scale of this, that everything is not small, everything is massive. So there are so many teams involved in bringing this together. And I have to make a point about that. Almost everybody on this project is working voluntarily and giving. And I am moved all the time by how selflessly everybody has been working and giving for the love of this project. It's incredible.
Getting involved, mobilizing resources, making this a truly African project where we have a South African artist, we have engineers from other parts of Africa, we're using steel from other parts of the world, but we're also, constructing this here in Nigeria. It doesn't get better than that.
In executing a work of art as beautiful and as important as this, and as large as this, we've had to bring our strong technical skills to bear, but also, as usual, work to time and to budget.
There have been many challenges on this project. The biggest challenge for us, apart from the scale and the scope of the project, was that COVID happened in between. And so the project was delayed, the prices of steel increased, and so constantly throughout this project, we have been faced with challenges and have had to think outside the box. We have had to think creatively.
The biggest problems were time, relying on third parties because we have to get suppliers to bring the various pieces that we need, shipping, clearing customs and things like that. Those were very big problems. Of course, cost, because in conceiving of this project over the last 2 to 3 years, pre-COVID, the cost of steel has spiraled out of control. So we've had to find a way of managing that in spite of the challenges of third parties, that we do things on time, on budget, and of course to the right standards that we are well known for.
We decided to galvanize the piece because given the way the steel looks, and if you look behind me, you can see the red ochre rusted steel, it's not going to stand out in a desert environment like the playa, a very brown, red hue. And so going for a galvanized silver look, which we're going to try and polish, is going to make it stand up very iconic. You can see behind me various pieces that have been galvanized that they are going to stand out in the playa. And so if you're standing at the man and you're looking towards the temple and you see our piece, you're going to see the silver galvanized resurrection of the clothes peg, which will be visible for everybody to see. We want our work to be seen. We want it to be interactive. We want people to experience it. And so that's why we've chosen to galvanize it, and I think that's worked.
I think there are 2 voices that are absent in the world. And I think it's the African voice and the female voice. And this is what this artwork is bringing. And it's saying we have a different voice to a Western voice. And the voice is one of the way the nature of this project has been. It's a collaborative voice as opposed to competitive. It's about working together. But it's also about a different kind of value system that I think globally needs to be recognized. A female voice is a very powerful voice without being aggressive, without being violent. It's a nurturing voice that is more powerful than a very domineering voice. And I think these are the kind of values that this artwork embodies. And this is the message of the work.
This is a collaborative effort. There's significant logistics attached to it. But the prominence of being able to show this work to a wide audience on a global scale is really what we're looking to achieve. And to be able to support communities off the back of it. This is, that's part of the plan. And we're very excited and humbled by the opportunity to be able to do this.
We would like the international audience to have the benefit of enjoying the culture for which we are well known in Nigeria as well as in South Africa. And so in showing at Burning Man, we're giving the international audience the opportunity to do that. But of course, bringing it home to Nigeria, we're going to allow the local population to enjoy this important piece of art as of course, the tourists that are being attracted to Nigeria. And most importantly, as Lagos is becoming a global tourist and cultural destination, we think this piece will become one of the iconic images with which Lagos will be forever associated. And we're very proud to have been able to support this project in bringing it home to Nigeria.
I would like the audience to think about what it is that this work means. So it is a work that brings critical questioning. So to think critically, what is this about, and question for themselves what this work means. Physically, the work is interactive. You can climb up to a seating area. You can experience the work physically. There are this section here where the pipes are hollow, and when the weather conditions are right, the wind will blow through it, so it will make a sound. So it is a piece that is alive. And so I hope that people will appreciate it for its aesthetic, for what it looks like, but also what it means. There we go.
Thank you so much, Usha, for sharing your very current and historic and always very exciting work with us. I already see we have some questions up, but just before we move into the questions, I'd like to again say thank you so much to you from the Department of Visual Art and from the SARTI chair, from Professor Brenda Smallman, the SARTI chair, and as well as myself, and just to acknowledge how wonderful it was to have you as our first speaker, given that your themes correspond so wonderfully with the focuses of our SARTI chair here, that of gender, of public art, and of community-based projects. I could see your face when you were playing the video, because your camera was on, and I could just see the pride that you were in your work and in your team, and I found myself smiling in response.
Well,
Thank you so much.
Respond. It's my absolute pleasure. Yeah, I have a lot of love for UJ people.
Well, let's let the UJ people speak. I know we have some questions. I have questions, but I will hold mine off. If anyone would like, please just pop up on camera or raise your voice and go ahead. Thank you.
Hello, Kim.
Hey, Usha, I just want to say I have no questions, just complete delight and wonder at you. I think you just are amazing. And I want to say thank you for sharing what you're doing. Our association with you at UJ makes us so proud. And it's just so fantastic to see you. So thank you and to see your work.
Thank you.
All right, well, since no one else is going, I'll just say, Usha, it's actually quite marvelous. When were you last, did you last talk to us? Was it about 2 years ago? I think so.
I don't know, a complete distortion of time.
Well, you showed us, so some of the earlier pieces that you showed us, I remembered from the last time, but it's quite marvelous to see what's evolved out of that.
Yeah, I can't even remember what I showed, Philippa, but I think it was 2 years ago.
Yeah, the sort of early iron things and the brooms you showed. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it's got that same wordplay whimsy, but it's become obviously it's got sort of more magnitude, but partly because of the proportions of things, the scale of things seems to have grown. But also I think your work is so thought-provoking. And what I'm particularly interested to know is, where does an idea start? Does it start with a play on words? Or does it start because you've got some materials that intrigue you, and you're curious to see how you can sort of rework them to make other things happen? Or is it a kind of strange combination, a back and forth of both those things?
Sometimes it starts with the wordplay, and I'll give you an example in a minute. But recently, more and more, it starts with what I call playing with the materials. So I have two full-time staff members at the studio, and that's really just for production, like stripping the irons, cleaning, and we kind of work together.
Amazing.
But every now and again, I go in at night or on the weekend or very early so that I can be alone. And then I just get into a zone and just play and try out different configurations. And it's a strange thing to ascribe a kind of personality to the materials, but it is a conversation with the materials. Because as I try different things, it is about being attentive and kind of responding to what they want. Because sometimes what I want just doesn't work. And if I allow them to do what they want to do, they suddenly, you just feel it. Okay, this is working and this is going somewhere and this isn't. So there is, I think, more and more a kind of intuitive response to the materials, but that happens through engaging with them. It's not about looking at them, and it's not about thinking about them. It's about physically working together. So that's becoming more and more a part of my process. But having said that, when I was in London in Feb, I was going somewhere, I can't remember, and I was walking and it was raining. I didn't have an umbrella. And while I was walking, this idea popped into my head. And it was so profound that I started dancing in the rain. And the idea was this: the word JPEG popped into my head. And because I've been working with a lot of, we're busy making NFTs and all these digital works. So the word JPEG has the word peg in it. And I've been working with pegs for so long. It was such an obvious thing that never occurred to me before. And so I danced around, and when I got back, I've started making, and you'll see them soon, I suppose. I started making works with the wooden pegs. I've made a J, and then I'm making MPEG works. So to answer your question, sometimes it is a word play that pops up, but most often it's the material.
Fascinating. And I suppose it's what helps is that you've probably honed your thought, your modus operandi over the years.
Yeah.
You probably know how to let your imagination run on than you might have 20 years ago.
Yes, no, it is a lot easier. I suppose it's a muscle that gets kind of stronger, isn't it?
Oh, your work is great. It's just so enjoyable, especially since I knew you as a student.
Thank you, Philippa. I was afraid of you in silk screening class, by the way.
What is that?
I was afraid of you in the silk screen class.
I can't imagine why.
Usha, I'd love to ask a question as well. I don't know if I should come on camera.
Go for it.
I love the Burning Man project. I love all your work, as you know. But I was struck with the Burning Man project. Is it temporary or is it permanent? Because I always associate Burning Man with
the burn,
destroying all these creations.
So they have a section where works are burned, and then there's other works that are not burnt. And on the video, you saw Dr. Timmy. He has sponsored the fabrication of the work, and that space in Lagos where the work was made is his space. And after Burning Man, he's donated the work to the National State Theatre in Lagos, which has just been given a 22 million or billion, I don't know, lots of money, dollars for an upgrade. And this piece will sit as a centerpiece outside the theatre. So it is a permanent piece, and it'll make full circle back to Lagos and sit there permanently.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I think so.
Great. And I'd like to hear what Ayebola Kekere-Okun thinks is doing work on Lagos.
Yes. Yeah, I should have a conversation with her.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda.
Usha, can we propose your pig to replace the abortive idea of a large 100-meter flag.
Yeah.
Sounds like it will cost about the same amount. So
That's crazy. I mean, that's just crazy.
I was thinking about when we met first outside Mandela's house,
Yes.
when you were creating words on Mandela's step.
Correct.
But the one piece that has really interested me recently is your angel wings in Rosebank. I'd love you to kind of expand on that.
Okay. So that piece is called The Mundane and the Magical. And when I was asked to propose for a piece outside the Radisson, I had just started making wings out of irons as kind of gallery pieces. And I thought, well, what if I could just make a massive set of wings? And as a public artwork, that it's interactive. But I guess what I was thinking also is that it is a kind of ode to female labor, that Rosebank kind of looks to the city center of Johannesburg, and Johannesburg has been built on migrant labor. And again, it's this idea of freedom and not freedom, wanting to be free, but also be kind of not even grounded, but I guess some level of, I don't want to say prison is too strong, but lack of freedom. So, you know, always for me, the material already speaks so much. Like conceptually, the material does half the job already. And the fact that these wings are made from irons, that is so domestic. I mean, domestic labor is such a big part of the South African culture. So yeah, I don't know if that answers. There's also all these allegorical kind of references, I guess, to wings and flight, because they are angelic. My last solo show in Cape Town at SMAC was called Angel of the House, which is another whole long story. But yeah, so there was a link between the two. Angel of the House references a text by Coventry Patmore, where the wife is presented as a subservient wife who kind of lives to please her husband. And Virginia Woolf gave a presentation or a speech of some kind where she critiques this text. And she writes about how when she does her writing, this angel disturbs her to the point that she murders this angel with her ink and with her pen. So kind of writing the angel away. And my body of work, Angel of the House, was referencing that text. And so in relationship to that, I guess the angel wings just made sense. Does that answer your question, Paul?
Yes, thank you very much. I mean, I was just totally fascinated going to take the pictures of it. And, you know, having one guy quickly jump into the shot to kind of have the angel wings behind him. Myself and the PR lady from the Radisson were having a big laugh at that.
It's a great piece, and the Radisson's getting so much of mileage out of that work.
Usha, just out of interest, their commission brief, was it just to make a work? Or did they ask for an interactive work, or was that what you gave them?
It was just a work. They just wanted a work, and I don't think that I think they had invited a few artists to propose. So I don't know how many, and then based on the proposal, they chose mine. And in fact, my proposal, the work that I had proposed, looked very different. I had proposed a set of wings, but they were more horizontal. And And then when I did it, so they had accepted it on that basis. And then when I did a site visit after, the building was halfway constructed. They were still busy with construction. And when I stood in the exact spot where it would be, there was this wonderful volume under this triangular point where the wings are. And immediately I thought, we should take advantage of this height and this volume. And then I asked them, can I change the design to make this a bit more vertical and less horizontal? And then, of course, you've got to Photoshop everything and illustrate it, and then they understand, and then they accepted that, which is a good decision.
Did you realize how much of an Instagram favorite the works would surely become?
No, not at all. This is a big, it's a big, nice thing, spin-off from it.
I wanted to ask you, actually, unless someone else would like to jump in, taking your work back to when you were a student at UJ, were you a printmaker? I'm sorry, I didn't actually know this. So you began as a printmaker. Did you have a particular favorite, and how did your work? Because it seems your work is increasing in scale and, can I say, gravitas. And as you say, you're playing with your mediums a great deal now. So the trajectory of your work is so interesting. But when you were a student, you were also a printmaker, a bit like Paul Emmanuel, who started off as a printmaker on quite delicate, small intaglio works, and now does these huge installations. We can, you guys are similar trajectory.
Interesting. When I was in, I think in third year, you choose two majors, or third year. So I chose printmaking and sculpture. And I enjoy printmaking very much because it is like an extension of drawing. It's like drawing in a photo. I guess. My favorite medium, I hated silk screening because I'm not meticulous. I'm quite messy. I mean, my studio is messy, and to just register and realign all the time for me is just a complete nightmare. So now I've printed the lithographs that I showed. I printed them with Joe Lechate from LL Editions. And what's very nice to work with a master printer is that you make the drawing and that works for me because I'm very messy. I can never keep corners clean and so on. My favorite medium, though, is colograph because it's the opportunity to use found objects, isn't it? Again. And in fact, I'm busy making a colograph at the moment, which I want to print. I don't have enough time to do enough printmaking, but it is something I want to make some more time for. Because I think there is definitely a link with form and making, particularly in making the plate.
I see, Usha, there's a question from Theo in the chat. He's just saying his microphone is not working. I don't know if you can see it. I can't see it on my side.
No, I don't know. Where are the chats? Where are the questions? I can't see the... Oh, you've muted, Irene.
Let me read it.
Okay.
It says, imagine I'm Theo. Usha, I'm afraid my microphone doesn't work on this machine. She Sleeps Naked is one of my favorite works. When I first saw it, based on your use of broomsticks, it immediately made me think of witchcraft and male fears surrounding female power, etc., as well as, quite frankly, misogyny in general. I wonder if you ever thought about this connection with, quote unquote, the witch.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a very intentionally witchy work. That was part of a body called Transgressing Power. And Transgressing Power was all about referencing the image of the witch in many different ways. And She Sleeps Naked comes from a poem by Elizabeth Willis. I think it's called The Witch, if I'm not mistaken. And in it, she describes the various qualities of a witch. And one of them is that she sleeps naked, where I borrowed the title from. And another quality that she states is that her breasts will be pointed rather than round. And on the brooms, of that piece, that text is inscribed, burnt into the wood, one word on each broom, that her breasts will be rounded, or pointed rather, instead of round. But yeah, I think you can't get away from the reference to witches when you're using brooms, right? But it's such a complex thing, and it's such a culturally complex thing, the idea of a witch. The title of the show, Transgressing Power, came from an article that I read in The Guardian, where the author said that when women transgress sexuality, they are labeled as whores, and when they transgress power, they are labeled as witches. So that whole show was built around that two lines that I had read.
That's so evocative. Brenda, I see your hand is still up. Is that a new hand?
No, it isn't. I've forgotten to take it down. I'm sorry. There
No
we go.
problem. Usha, if you still can't see, Theo has replied. He says, "Thank you so much for your robust response, Usha."
It's my pleasure, Theo.
I wondered, could I ask you a practical question that I was very curious about? The irons. How, if you were to break it down, did you look at an iron and think, I'm going to smash this apart and see what's on the inside? Like, did you take a hammer and a pair of pliers? Did you immediately go to like a repair place and say, how do I deconstruct it? When you hired your two assistants, do you have one who's very almost like a
aggressive,
who could
with anger issues and a 4-pound hammer?
Or like an appliance deconstructing person, like and there's welding involved. You sewed those two irons together. Like, what does that mean that you had a tiny drill bit that went through? I'm kind of interested in the practical, when you bend them into the vulva shapes, that's heating with a blowtorch, with a welder. And that's your assistant. Are you standing over, like pointing? How does that work?
Interesting question. I'm very much aware of the kind of violence that goes into forming the irons, because there is a lot of cutting and angle grinding and beating. Physically beating it into shape, and it's just a strange thing that I became aware of at some point, just how aggressive the process is of working with these materials. But to answer your question, I had started working with the full iron, obviously, first. And then I don't actually remember breaking an iron apart. But what happened a few years ago was I came across. Oh, there's an echo. I think I can hear myself, which is quite difficult to speak. Oh, there we go. Okay. So a few years ago, I came across, through a series of coincidences, I came to a recycling place and bought 3 tons of ironing bases. So they had already been stripped. It was just the base. And so the base, again, I stripped further, but I didn't actually break a full iron. But deconstructing the base already is quite a bit of work. Yeah.
So it's not necessarily that. I know with the brooms, I think you've said before how you might have old ladies from the neighborhood come and be like, I gave you that broom.
Yes.
So sometimes it's very much like a transformation or an honoring of perhaps women's labor whom you know in an intimate and personal community kind of way. And then sometimes it's much more, I might not necessarily have had these irons donated to me. I'm going to go to the plant and get workers, because it must be huge amounts. Because how do you source that many irons? Just like I remember you said before, last time in 2020 when you presented with us, you struggled to source wooden pegs. That usually these days are those funny pegs or they're made of plastic. So is it also you have huge amounts of the tonnage sometimes of the raw material? Is that still creative solutions found?
Yeah, I've kind of found sources, I guess, sources and resources, right? So I've made a relationship now with this recycling plant where I get ironing bases per ton. And the owner has given me some pickaxes to make a work for him. And in exchange, I've got like a few tons worth of stuff that I can have. And then I found a local manufacturer of wooden pegs in Durban. So I buy those also en masse. But to answer your question earlier, I'm very hands-on with the making of the work. And so I do, I weld, I grind, I do all of that. I have one assistant who's quite technically skilled, and we work very, very closely together. And then another assistant who is less technically skilled, but does a lot of like the cleaning, the kind of stripping of the stuff, and assisting, I guess. But they both technical help. I've tried to get some admin help before, and it hasn't worked. And then also on project to project basis, sometimes I hire more people for short term, just to get through a project. I wish I could hire more people on a full-time basis, but it's not possible right now.
Well, I hope it soon will be. we can appreciate the magnitude of your projects more, I think, when you have all the resources that are possible. Please, before we possibly wind up, we're almost on the hour. Is there anyone who might like to not necessarily ask a question, but also just say hi to Usha, because as she said, she really appreciates seeing the UJ faces. There's Gordon. Hi.
Usha, I was just going to say, if you're ever in a position where you need to use students,
Yes.
I think the kind of interaction, what have you, would be valuable for them to learn. They've obviously learned a similar way of working through my approach to working with found objects and things, but I think it would be a real world experience for them to work alongside you as well and learn from your process.
Okay.
So
yeah.
Feel free to approach us, and if people are available, yeah, it could be great. And just to say how very proud we are, and thanks very much. It was great to be at your dinner where you were given your award, and it was a wonderful evening, just filled with warmth. And yeah, so proud of you as an alumnus of UJ and as a friend. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, definitely. I'll reach out if I need students.
Yeah, I concur everything he said.
And that was a lovely evening, wasn't it?
Yay, Usha, yeah. It
Yeah.
was just wonderful.
Wonderful.
With just a little bit of wine involved, yeah.
Yes, just a tiny bit. I see David Payton is on. And
Two for the price of one.
And I'm trying to say to him, oh, come on, let's say hi to Usha.
And I called you out, see?
Good.
Congratulations. Fantastic.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Usha. It's just been an absolute delight to hear about your work. So thank you for joining us again.
Thank you,
Really
Brent.
appreciate it.
Always a pleasure. And it's a pleasure chatting with you. You bring out the best in me.
Yeah.
I'm sure we all look forward to more work published between you and Brenda.
Sure, there's lots already, hey?
Yeah, Brenda, more projects await.
I actually see that my essay written chapter about must be 4 or 5 years ago when I started doing some work on your Gandhi sculpture, the public image you made of Nelson Mandela. That book is out a couple of days ago, eventually.
Wonderful.
I
Finally.
don't have my copy, but I can check Stan.
Okay. Great. I look forward to it.
Yes.
Yeah, I also would need a reminder of what I wrote at this point.
Well, I think we all look forward to it, and we all look forward to seeing you again, I hope, Usha.
Yeah, I mean,
We'll
I'm
book
here.
you for another 2 years.
Yeah, no, I'm here, and whatever you need, call on me. Let's see what we can do. Yeah.
Well, you've done so much for us already, and I speak for all of us when we say, and on behalf of the SARTI Chair and Dover, thank you so much for presenting to us and sharing your recent and current and past work. Thanks for being an alumnus of us and a continuing friend.
Thank you, guys. Always a pleasure. I'm sorry about my coughing and inability to speak as much as I would like to, but
Thanks, Usha.
yeah.
And good luck for the next 2 years.
Thank you. There's a lot happening, so
Yeah.
yeah. Well,
Bye-bye, everybody.
everybody.
Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye, Usha. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Cheers.
Cheers.
See you at the next
Bye.
one. Bye.